There is a particular kind of devastation that only those who have experienced it can truly understand. It is not the pain of a single blow, but the accumulated weight of betrayals, failures, losses, and disappointments that finally break something inside you. You wake up one day and realize that the person you thought you were no longer exists. The confidence is gone, the direction is gone, the sense of purpose that once animated your life has dissolved into confusion and doubt. If you are in this place right now, or if you have been there and are struggling to find your way out, then what I am about to share with you is not just philosophy. It is a lifeline. It is the ancient Stoic method for rebuilding yourself from the ground up, and it must be done in silence. Why silence? Because the world does not reward vulnerability in men. Because people who have never been truly broken cannot understand the depth of the work required to become whole again. Because your rebuilding is sacred work that cannot be performed under the scrutiny and judgment of others. Marcus Aurelius, who faced unimaginable pressures as Emperor of Rome, understood that the most important work happens in private. His meditations were never meant to be published. They were his private conversations with himself, the quiet work of building and maintaining his character away from the public eye. The same must be true for you. Before you continue, I need you to answer honestly. Are you ready to stop performing for others and start building for yourself? Are you willing to withdraw into the necessary silence that precedes all genuine transformation? If you are, then this is where your rebuilding begins. The first truth you must accept is that being broken is not permanent unless you make it so. The Stoics understood that adversity is not the exception in human life, it is the rule. Seneca wrote that difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. But this strengthening only happens if you engage with the difficulty consciously, if you use it as raw material for growth rather than allowing it to define and diminish you. You have been broken. This is a fact, but broken is not the same as destroyed. Broken means that your previous form no longer serves you, that you must be rebuilt into something stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Epictetus, who was literally broken, crippled by his master, became one of the most influential philosophers in history. He did not do this by denying his suffering or pretending it did not matter. He did it by refusing to let his external circumstances determine his internal state. He made a fundamental distinction that changed everything. Some things are in our control, and some things are not. What happened to you, the ways you were betrayed or defeated or diminished, these are not in your control. They are in the past. They are done. But how you respond to them, how you rebuild from them, what you choose to become because of them, this is entirely in your control. This is where your power lives. The rebuilding must happen in silence because noise is the enemy of transformation. We live in an era of constant broadcasting, where every thought and feeling is immediately shared with an audience. But genuine change does not happen in front of an audience. It happens in the quiet moments when you are alone with your thoughts, when you are forced to confront uncomfortable truths, when you are doing the unglamorous work of healing and strengthening yourself. If you announce your rebuilding, if you perform it for others, you will be tempted to take shortcuts. You will shape your recovery to fit what others expect or approve of rather than what you actually need. Silence also protects you from the doubters and critics who will inevitably question your transformation. When you are in the early stages of rebuilding, you are vulnerable. Your new foundation is not yet solid. Negative input from others can derail your progress, can cause you to doubt the path you have chosen. The Stoics understood that the opinions of others should hold no power over your internal work. But they were also practical. They knew that constant defense of your choices drains energy that should be directed toward actually making those choices work. So you withdraw. You do the work in private. You emerge only when the foundation is solid. there is also a deeper spiritual dimension to the silence. When you stop speaking, when you stop performing, when you stop trying to convince others or yourself that you are okay, you create space for truth to emerge. You can finally hear the quiet voice of wisdom that has been drowned out by the noise of your life. You can begin to distinguish between what you actually believe and value versus what you have been conditioned to believe and value. This discernment is essential to rebuilding yourself authentically rather than just reconstructing the broken version that failed you in the first place. The Stoics practiced regular periods of withdrawal and reflection. They called it anachoresis, the retreat into oneself. This was not escapism or avoidance. It was strategic withdrawal for the purpose of strengthening and clarifying. Marcus Aurelius would retreat into his own mind even while surrounded by the chaos of military campaigns and political intrigue. You must do the same. Whether you have the luxury of physical solitude or you must create internal solitude amid the demands of daily life, you must carve out this space for your rebuilding. The first stage of rebuilding in silence is the stage of honest assessment. You cannot rebuild what you do not understand. You must take inventory of the damage, acknowledge what is broken, and identify what can be salvaged. This requires brutal honesty with yourself, the kind of honesty that most people avoid because it is painful. The Stoics believed that self-deception is the greatest obstacle to wisdom. As long as you are lying to yourself about what happened, why it happened, and your role in it, you cannot move forward authentically. What broke you? Was it a relationship that ended in betrayal? Was it a business failure that destroyed your financial security? Was it a series of disappointments that accumulated until you could no longer maintain the facade of being okay? Was it the slow realization that you have been living according to someone else's script rather than your own? Whatever it was, you must name it clearly. You must look at it directly without flinching. The Stoics called this practicing the view from above, stepping back and seeing your situation with clarity and perspective rather than being lost in the emotional turbulence of it. But honest assessment also means acknowledging your own contributions to your current situation. This is perhaps the hardest part. It is easier to see yourself as a victim of circumstances or other people's actions. And yes, you may have been genuinely wronged. But the Stoic recognizes that even when we are wronged, we often have played some role in creating the conditions that allowed that wrong to occur. Did you ignore red flags because you were afraid of being alone? Did you sacrifice your values for short-term gains? Did you build your identity on unstable foundations like others' approval or external success? These questions are not about blame. They are about learning, about understanding so that you do not repeat the same patterns. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Part of your honest assessment must include examining the stories you have been telling yourself about your brokenness. Are you catastrophizing? Are you telling yourself that you will never recover, that you are fundamentally damaged, that your best days are behind you? These stories are not truth. They are fear dressed in the costume of realism. The Stoic practice is to separate fact from interpretation. The facts are what happened. The interpretation is the story you tell yourself about what those facts mean. You can change the interpretation without denying the facts. Once you have completed your honest assessment, the second stage begins, the stage of stripping away. Before you can rebuild, you must clear the rubble. This means identifying and releasing everything that no longer serves you. Old identities that were based on false premises. Relationships that are toxic or draining. Habits that were coping mechanisms but have become chains. Beliefs about yourself that were never true but that you accepted because you did not know better. The Stoics practiced voluntary simplicity, regularly examining their lives and removing excess. You must do the same with your internal landscape. This stripping away is painful because we are creatures of attachment. Even when something is harming us, we cling to it because it is familiar. Letting go feels like death, and in a sense it is. It is the death of who you were. But the Stoics understood that death and rebirth are constant processes in nature and in human life. Nothing stays the same. You are either growing or decaying. If you cling to what needs to die, you prevent what needs to be born. Marcus Aurelius meditated regularly on impermanence, on the fact that everything passes. This was not morbid. It was liberating. It freed him from the tyranny of attachment. What must you strip away? Perhaps it is the need to be seen as successful when you do not feel successful. Perhaps it is the mask of strength you have been wearing to hide your vulnerability. Perhaps it is relationships where you have to pretend to be someone you are not. Perhaps it is career paths you chose to please others rather than yourself. Perhaps it is the addiction to distraction that has been preventing you from facing your pain. Whatever it is, the stripping away must be thorough. You cannot build a new foundation on top of rubble. If this process of rebuilding resonates with you, if you are ready to commit to the difficult work of transformation, then subscribe to this channel where we explore these ancient practices not as theory but as lived wisdom for men navigating the challenges of modern life. The third stage is the stage of building new foundations, and this is where silence becomes most critical. You are not rebuilding the person you were. You are building someone new, someone forged by adversity and strengthened by wisdom. The Stoics believed that character is the only true foundation, that everything else is subject to the whims of fortune. So your rebuilding must focus on character, on virtue, on wisdom, on integrity, on courage. These are the only things that cannot be taken from you, the only things that provide genuine stability. How do you build character in silence? Through daily practice, through small, consistent actions that align with your values even when no one is watching. Especially when no one is watching. Epictetus taught that we should practice virtue in the small things so that we are prepared for the big things. You build character by keeping promises to yourself, by doing the difficult thing when the easy thing is available, by telling the truth even when a lie would be more convenient, by helping someone when there is no reward for helping. These small acts, performed consistently in private, gradually rebuild the foundation of who you are. The fourth stage of rebuilding is the cultivation of internal sovereignty. This means developing a sense of self that is not dependent on external validation, circumstances, or outcomes. The Stoics called this state autarkia, self-sufficiency. It does not mean isolation or not needing others. It means that your fundamental sense of worth and identity comes from within rather than from what others think of you or what you have achieved. This is perhaps the most important foundation you can build, because it is the one that makes you unbreakable in the future. How do you develop internal sovereignty? By training yourself to find satisfaction in virtue rather than in results. By learning to be content with effort rather than outcome. By building your identity on character rather than on accomplishments or relationships. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action, that what stands in the way becomes the way. He was describing the process of finding meaning and growth in difficulty itself, rather than waiting for external circumstances to improve before you can feel okay. When you achieve this shift, you become truly free. Nothing can break you because your okayness does not depend on anything external. This stage also involves developing what the Stoics called prosage, attention, or mindfulness. You must learn to watch your own thoughts and reactions without being controlled by them. When a thought arises that says you are worthless, you observe it without believing it. When an emotion of despair wells up, you feel it without being drowned by it. When a memory of your brokenness surfaces, you acknowledge it without letting it define your present moment. This practice of mindful awareness creates space between stimulus and response, and in that space, you reclaim your freedom. The fifth stage is the gradual re-engagement with the world, but on your terms rather than the world's terms. You have withdrawn into silence to rebuild, but the goal is not permanent withdrawal. The goal is to return to engagement with a solid foundation, with clarity about who you are and what matters to you. The Stoics were not hermits. They were engaged citizens, teachers, leaders. But their engagement flowed from a place of internal stability rather than from neediness or fear. You must do the same. This re-engagement must be strategic and boundaried. You are still in recovery. You are still building strength. You must be careful about what energy you allow into your space and what demands you accept. The Stoic practice is to say no to anything that does not align with your values or serve your growth. This is not selfishness. This is self-preservation. You cannot help others if you are still broken. You cannot contribute meaningfully to the world if you have not yet rebuilt your foundation. So you choose carefully. You engage where it serves your continued growth, and you withdraw where it threatens your recovery. There is also the question of forgiveness, both of others and of yourself. The Stoics had a nuanced view of forgiveness. They did not advocate for naive forgiveness that exposes you to continued harm. But they did advocate for releasing resentment and bitterness, because these emotions poison you far more than they affect the people you resent. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the best revenge is not to be like the one who caused the injury. When you rebuild yourself in silence, part of that rebuilding is letting go of the anger and hurt that has been eating you from the inside. Forgiving yourself is often harder than forgiving others. You replay your mistakes, your failures, your moments of weakness. You tell yourself that you should have known better, done better, been better. But the Stoic recognizes that at every moment, you did the best you could with the awareness and resources you had. Would you do things differently now? Yes, because you have learned. But you cannot judge past actions with present wisdom. You can only take the lessons and move forward. Self-forgiveness is not excusing what you did wrong. It is accepting that you are human, that growth requires mistakes, and that you are not defined by your worst moments. The sixth stage is the development of a personal philosophy, a set of principles that will guide you going forward. The Stoics believed that everyone should develop their own philosophical framework, their own understanding of what matters and why. This is not something you can borrow wholesale from others. It must be built through reflection, experience, and commitment. What do you believe about how life should be lived? What values are non-negotiable for you? What kind of person do you want to become? These questions must be answered in the silence of your rebuilding. Your personal philosophy becomes your North Star, the thing you orient toward when confusion arises. It provides clarity in difficult decisions. It gives you the strength to say no to things that once would have tempted you. It protects you from sliding back into old patterns. Epictetus taught that philosophy is not abstract theory. It is a way of life, a daily practice of aligning your actions with your understanding of what is good and true. Your rebuilding in silence is the perfect time to develop this philosophy, because you are free from the noise and pressure of others' expectations. As you move through these stages of rebuilding, you will encounter resistance, both internal and external. Your old self will resist the new self you are building. Parts of you will want to return to familiar patterns even though those patterns led to your breaking. This is natural. Change is uncomfortable even when it is necessary. The Stoic practice is to expect this resistance, to plan for it, to work with it rather than being surprised or defeated by it. Seneca wrote that we should rehearse difficulties before they arise so that when they come, we are prepared. So rehearse the moments when you will be tempted to abandon your rebuilding. Imagine them vividly. Plan your response in advance. External resistance will also come. People who knew the old you will be uncomfortable with the new you. They may consciously or unconsciously try to pull you back into old dynamics. They may question your changes, mock your growth, or simply refuse to acknowledge that you have transformed. This is why the rebuilding must happen in silence. By the time you fully re-emerge, your new foundation is solid enough that these external pressures cannot shake it. You are no longer seeking their approval or validation. You are simply living according to your principles and allowing others to respond however they choose. There will also be times when you doubt whether the rebuilding is working, when progress feels impossibly slow, when you wonder if you are just fooling yourself. The Stoics understood that growth is not linear. There will be setbacks. There will be days when you feel as broken as you did at the beginning. This does not mean you are failing. It means you are human. Marcus Aurelius had to remind himself daily of basic Stoic principles, not because he had forgotten them, but because the practice of remembering them was what maintained his resilience. You must do the same. Daily practice, daily recommitment, daily return to your principles. Let me be specific about the daily practices that support rebuilding in silence. First, journaling. Write every day about your thoughts, your struggles, your progress. This is your private conversation with yourself, the place where you can be completely honest without performance or judgment. The Stoics all kept journals. Marcus Aurelius' meditations are essentially his journal entries. Through writing, you clarify your thinking, process your emotions, and track your transformation. Second, meditation or contemplation. Spend time each day in silence, observing your thoughts without attachment to them. This builds the muscle of awareness that allows you to respond to life consciously rather than reactively. Third, physical discipline. The body and mind are connected. As you rebuild your character, you must also rebuild your physical strength. Exercise, proper nutrition, adequate sleep. These are not optional. They are foundational. The Stoics believed in training the body to be resilient and capable, not for vanity, but because physical weakness makes mental and spiritual strength harder to maintain. Fourth, study. Read the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, but also read widely. Philosophy, psychology, biography, history. Fill your mind with wisdom from others who have walked difficult paths and emerged stronger. Learning is a lifelong practice for the person committed to continuous growth. Fifth, service. Even while you are rebuilding in silence, find small ways to contribute to others. Help someone without expectation of return. Contribute to your community in quiet ways. The Stoics believed that human beings are social creatures who find meaning through connection and contribution. You cannot fully rebuild yourself in complete isolation, but you can choose forms of service that do not require you to perform or explain yourself, that allow you to give while still protecting the sacred space of your rebuilding. Sixth, practice voluntary discomfort. The Stoics regularly engaged in practices like fasting, cold exposure, sleeping on the floor, or voluntarily giving up comforts. These practices train you not to be dependent on pleasant circumstances for your well-being. They build resilience and mental toughness. In your rebuilding, incorporate regular practices of voluntary discomfort. Take cold showers, fast occasionally, exercise past the point of comfort. Sit with difficult emotions instead of immediately distracting yourself. These practices forge the kind of strength that prevents future breaking. As you near the completion of your rebuilding, and understand that rebuilding is never truly finished, it is a lifelong process, you will notice certain signs that your foundation has become solid. You will find that external events no longer destabilize you the way they once did. A rejection that would have crushed you before is now simply information. A failure that would have shattered your confidence before is now a learning experience. A betrayal that would have broken you before is now something you can observe and respond to without losing your center. These are the markers of genuine transformation. You will also notice that you no longer need external validation the way you once did. You can receive compliments without letting them inflate your ego. You can receive criticism without letting it devastate you. Your sense of worth comes from your alignment with your principles, not from others' opinions. This is internal sovereignty fully developed. This is the state the Stoics aspired to, the unshakable center that allows you to engage fully with life without being controlled by its ups and downs. Finally, you will notice that you have become a source of quiet strength for others. Not because you are preaching or performing, but simply because your presence is different. People who are struggling will sense in you something solid, something that has been tested and proven resilient. You do not need to announce your transformation. It will be evident in how you move through the world, how you handle difficulty, how you maintain your integrity under pressure. This is the ultimate fruit of rebuilding in silence. You become living proof that breaking is not the end, that transformation is possible, that there is a way through the darkness. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the universe is change, and life is opinion. You have been broken. This is change, but your opinion about what that breaking means, and what you will become because of it, is entirely up to you. You can choose to see it as destruction, as evidence of your inadequacy, as the end of your story. Or you can choose to see it as the necessary breaking down of an unstable structure so that something stronger could be built. The Stoics chose the second interpretation every time, not because it was easy, but because it was empowering. It placed the power back in their hands. If you are in the midst of rebuilding right now, if you are doing the difficult work in silence, if you are committed to emerging from this stronger than you were before, then know this. You are walking an ancient path, one that countless wise people have walked before you. You are not alone, even in your solitude. The principles are proven, the method works, but it requires patience, persistence, and faith in the process even when you cannot yet see the results. Trust the rebuilding, honor the silence, protect your foundation, and know that on the other side of this necessary darkness, there is a version of you waiting to emerge that you cannot yet imagine, stronger, wiser, and truly unbreakable. Subscribe to this channel if you are committed to this path of transformation. Share this with another man who is rebuilding in silence and needs to know he is not alone. Comment below with one practice you will commit to today. And remember, the rebuilding happens in silence, but the results speak louder than words ever could. You are building something permanent in a temporary world. You are becoming someone who cannot be broken because you have learned how to rebuild. This is the Stoic way. This is the path of the warrior philosopher. Walk it with dignity, patience, and unwavering commitment to becoming who you are meant to be.